welcome to Destination Draft Day, your one-stop shop for all things NFL draft, college football, and NFL talk. First and foremost, let's address the elephant in the room. No Nick Durst today. He's out feeling a little bit under the weather, so obviously wishing him well in terms of just feeling better. But Michael Rockman here, really just hoping to talk to you guys about some of the interesting storylines that have been following NFL, college football, everything in between. And first and foremost, we're going to start with the most recent news in college football, and that is Quinn Ewers committing to the University of Texas. An absolute huge move in terms of the college football landscape. Quinn Ewers, obviously at Ohio State, a quarterback that was highly touted, was the number one QB in this 2022 class that's coming up and reclassified into the 2021 recruiting class and was again qualified as the number one player. That just shows how much hype was surrounding him at Ohio State. You know, obviously with CJ Stroud, with the experienced QBs such as Jack Miller, Kyle McCord. He never really saw the field. He got some garbage time handoffs against Michigan State, but all in all, not a lot of time. Still, the hype is very high on him, and he goes to Texas. Now, on paper, Quinn Ewers, Bijan Robinson, Xavier Worthy, that's a very good trio. Is Texas going to be back? You know, there's a lot of questions in that regard because, yes, they have also landed guys like five-star offensive lineman Kelvin Banks, flipping him from Oregon. They're still in on Devin Campbell. They're still in on some other linemen, some other recruits as well. But there's still a lot of work to be done. The defense had its issues last year in terms of just being consistent in terms of tackling. The offensive line still isn't solved, even with Kelvin Banks, even with the development of some of these other guys. There's still question marks surrounding this offensive line, surrounding this overall team. And, you know, Quinn Ewers isn't a sure thing. I think the debate between Quinn Ewers and Cade Klubnik was one that was highly touted, one that was highly debated, but on a lot of platforms, you know, Quinn Ewers was considered the consensus number one. But it seemed on an individual case, a lot of people lean Klubnik in that regard. So, you know, Quinn Ewers is a very talented recruit, highly touted for a reason, but there's still a lot of question marks surrounding his game. And so for the Longhorns themselves, Steve Sarkisian, just this overall team, there's still a lot to be seen from Ewers. I think it's guaranteed that he's going to be the starter. Doubt there's going to be much of a quarterback competition. That's legitimate. You know, I think his guarantees from these schools, Texas Tech, Texas, TCU, wherever he was considering, it was on the premise that he was going to be starter day one. And I think that's going to be the case for Texas. I think they promised him that for the next 2 years, he would be the starting quarterback for the Texas Longhorns. And, you know, if they have to make that switch, then it would really result in Quinn Ewers leaving Texas, I would think. So ultimately, this is huge for Texas, especially after a 5-7 season where it was clearly disappointing compared to the expectation that a lot of Texas fans have. But there's still plenty of reason for optimism after the offseason that they've been able to put together. And this is a huge signing in that regard. Still plenty of big names in the transfer portal. Another big name that we need to talk about is Tank Bigsby, who just entered the portal just yesterday for the Auburn Tigers. Bo Nix, the quarterback for Auburn, joins him as well. There are a ton of interesting prospects in this portal, but you're not going to find many more talented than the running back duo of Tank Bigsby and Jahmyr Gibbs, both in the portal, top running backs from their universities, respectively. There's just so much talent. And, you know, you look at it at a school like Alabama where they have some young guys, Trey Sanders, McClellan, all look very good. But if you can put in a Tank Bigsby into that situation, a Jahmyr Gibbs in that situation, then you're kind of locking up the idea that you're going to have the strongest offense next year. Bryce Young returns. John Mechie likely comes back after tearing his ACL. Ja'Cory Brooks looked extremely good. Ajayi Hall probably will continue to grow into a role. You know, there's just pieces all over this offense. Jameson Williams obviously going to be gone, but there's still plenty of talent all surrounding, you know, this team. I think Billingsley could very easily return. I think Latu very likely returns to tight end. So really so much talent for Alabama. Adding a superstar running back like a Bigsby, like a Gibbs, I think that puts Alabama as the clear favorite for next year. You know, there's still the debate that Georgia's going to be good. There's still talk that Clemson could bounce back. There's even some rumors that USC could be in the mix if Lincoln Riley really does get going right away. I don't know if I buy that one as much. Still a lot of players, though, in this transfer portal that could change the landscape of college football So keep an eye out on it and really just kind of keep a heads up on it because, Quinn Ewers, huge commitment, but there's still a lot of other pieces in this transfer portal that can turn around a program. We saw it with Michigan State. Yes, they only had 5 transfer starters, but those 5 starters are huge, and each landing that happens in this portal, there's a lot of payout from it. From Clemson, Aju, the wide receiver that really looked promising, entered the portal. There was Deion Smith from LSU, Jacob Copeland from Florida. So there are plenty of at least respectable starters in this transfer portal that will very likely find another contending home and potentially grow that role into really helping that team push forward in their strive for the national championship next year. Obviously, though, there's plenty of college football to talk about that's still going on this year, and we're talking about the bowl games. Middle Tennessee versus Toledo is going to kick us off on Friday, December the 17th. This is a game that is really up in the air for a lot of people. I believe the spread, though, is 10-point favorite for Toledo. I lean Toledo as well. I think offensively they have the firepower in this game. Middle Tennessee is a formidable team, and I think they're going to keep it close, but there was just a lot of games this year, where they just didn't really perform to the expectation. You look at games like Western Kentucky, where they really couldn't hold up with the offense. And while Toledo isn't a Western Kentucky powered offense, Toledo has been a pretty strong team all season. Held Notre Dame to a 3-point game, even though they lost in that one. Beat some very good teams like Western Michigan, Ohio, Akron. That MAC was a very tough conference, and Toledo was able to hang in there, go 7-5. I think they control this one and win against Middle Tennessee. The next game on that opening day is Coastal Carolina versus Northern Illinois, 2 very good teams that have a lot to prove. I go Coastal Carolina in that one. There's no missing pieces. Obviously, Grayson McCall is going to be playing. I think Coastal Carolina has maybe disappointed a little bit for their expectations this year. I'm sure they wanted to go undefeated, 11-1, and then they blew some games to Appalachian State and Georgia State. But I still think they're one of the better G5 teams in the nation. And I think in this Tailgreeter Cure Bowl, we're going to see the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers take it home and finish the season 11-2. Then on that Saturday, we got Western Kentucky versus Appalachian State. I'm going with Western Kentucky. The high-powered offense really just sells me on this team. Appalachian State, the 3-point favorite, but I don't see them keeping up with Western Kentucky offensively. They've had their games where they look good. They beat a team like Coastal Carolina, but man, Bailey Zapp, has just been absolutely insane in terms of production. J.F. Stearns, one of the best wide receivers in college football. Really excited for this game. I think it's going to be one that if you are looking for smaller bowls that you should actually keep an eye on, this is one that I think is going to be a very good game. But I'm going with the Hilltoppers. In that next game, we're going UTEP versus Fresno State. I don't know what to make of this game. I've been trying to find out if Jake Haener is going to be eligible to play in this bowl game. And really, I haven't really gotten clarity in that regard. A lot of people don't know because he entered the transfer portal, seemed like he was on his way out from Fresno State, seemed like he wanted the opportunity to prove himself at a Power 5 school, and instead, re-entered back to Fresno State. I have no idea if he's eligible to play, but if he is, I'm taking Fresno. If not, then I'm flipping over to UTEP. Still should be a good game. I'm excited to see that one. UAB versus BYU. I think BYU has been the team to beat all season in terms of just every game they go into. Jaron Hall has put together a very exciting year, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Tyler Algier, you probably remember him if you watched BYU a lot last year because of Zach Wilson. BYU had 2 losses this season, Baylor by 14 and Boise State. Those are 2 pretty comfortable losses. I know Boise State maybe wasn't as dominant as they usually are, but this was still a very good game or a very good team this year, and BYU losing to that doesn't really shake my confidence. Whereas, UAB had some bad losses. They obviously lost to Georgia, which was expected, but they also lost to Rice. They lost to Liberty, who, yes, has Malik Willis, but they weren't a very good team this year, and they lost to UTSA. Now, UTSA and Georgia, I'm fine with. But Liberty and Rice, That's where I kind of draw that line of difference between these two teams. And that's why I got to go with my opinion on this and go with BYU in that one. Again, talking about Liberty, this is going to be an interesting game. Next in the Lending Tree Bowl, Liberty versus Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan was a very strange situation because they seem to have their QB. They had Peyton Hutchinson last year, and he seemed to be the guy, or Preston Hutchinson, sorry, and he seemed to be the guy. And now Ben Bryant has stepped in and looked extremely promising. And there's reason to believe that Eastern Michigan could easily come into this one and win. Liberty has had their issues all season. I'm not 100% certain if Malik Willis is playing or not. I would assume he is, but a lot of people are going to lean Liberty because of Malik Willis, and I get it. Malik Willis is an absolute stud. I really do enjoy him as a prospect, but in terms of college football teams, Liberty is very much vulnerable to lose this game. So, do your own research, watch a little bit of tape, but don't be surprised if Eastern Michigan pulls that one out because there's still plenty of talent for Eastern Michigan in that game. And then the last two games, first we're going to talk about Utah State versus Oregon State. This is one where I think I got to go with Oregon State. I know Utah State has put together a great year, 10-3 on the season. Logan Bonner has had 36 touchdowns, 3,560 yards. But Oregon State has been a very good competitive team. Lost to Purdue to start the season, has a few Pac-12 losses as well, Washington State, California, Colorado, Oregon. But they've beaten some good teams as well, Washington, Stanford, Arizona State, Utah. They have some good wins on their resume. And I think they're going to come into this game against Utah State and kind of shell shock them. I know that, these G5 teams aren't just going to walk in and think, oh, they're 7-5. They're going to know that it's a power conference team and really step up their performance. But I trust Oregon State to take that one. And I think that they're going to finish the season 8-5 while Utah State falls to 10-4. Still a very good season for the Aggies. And in that final matchup, Louisiana at 12-1, ranked number 23 in the nation, against Marshall, 7-5 on the year. Grant Wells has been someone that has been talked about nonstop because of his electric freshman season. Kind of struggled this year with 16 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. But on the other side, Louisiana is an old team. Levi Lewis, Cam Smith. There's just a lot of experience on this team. And I know Smith is probably one of the non-examples of experience on this team, but still just a very old veteran team that had a lot of guys return this year. They obviously put together a great season. I think that Louisiana is going to win this one. They just have too much experience. And this is really kind of a last ride type of game for the Cajuns. Very much a great team, great season. Billy Napier gone. But this is where you kind of really put that final seal on your season. And for Louisiana, 12-1, lost only to Texas in the first game of the season. A different Texas from, what we saw in those last 7 games or whatever. But really just a great team that Napier put together here at Louisiana, great program. And I think even with Napier gone, even with him, focusing on his job in Florida, Louisiana has so much talent, and I expect them to pull that game. And really that's all for the bowl weekend. We'll talk to you more on that Monday. No show this Friday because I'm going to be going home for the holidays, but we'll talk to you more on Monday, a little bit probably during the Tulsa Old Dominion game, but we'll talk more about some of the Tuesday games, Wednesday, stuff like that. But still plenty of great college football on this weekend. But as we transition from college football, we're going to talk about the NFL and what happened this past weekend. First and foremost, huge win for the Browns in a game that kind of felt do or die in terms of can they make this happen. If they fell to 6-7 in a division that was as tight as the AFC North, then they were in trouble. But now with a victory against the Baltimore Ravens, they've really kind of put themselves back into a good spot to potentially make the playoffs. This is a ridiculous conference right now. 3 teams have been eliminated. Jaguars, Texans, Jets. Every other team is 3 games away from those 3. Miami 6-7, and they are, I believe, 11th in the conference right now, or 12th. So any team can make it. The entire wild card picture, there's 7 teams that are going to make it. Right now, Indianapolis and Pittsburgh, or Indianapolis and Buffalo take those final 2 spots. Final 2 spots. And Miami 6 and 7, all the way down in 13th place or whatever, 12th place. So there is plenty of variety and change that could happen over these final weeks. Miami has some big games on their schedule. They were off this week, but they've won 5 in a row. They have the Jets next week. You have to assume they're going to be 7 and 7. Play the Saints that next week, Titans and Patriots. That's going to be a tough final 3 games, but sitting at 7 and 7 with the win streak that they've had, you can maybe see some momentum going for them. You look at a team like the Las Vegas Raiders, who have lost 5 of their last 6 games. They looked like they were a team that were going to be making playoffs, really had their issues. But if they can kind of reshape this season, they're playing teams that are kind of in a similar boat with them. If they beat Cleveland, both teams are 7 and 7. They play Denver, who is currently at 7 and 6. They could really kind of one up them in that division standing. They play the Colts, who are 7 and 6 and really one of the hottest teams in football. But their wins have come against teams that you could kind of argue aren't necessarily up to the level. I mean, they've had 3-4 of those wins against like Texans, Jets, and Jaguars. So, the Raiders could very easily go into that game and win it. And then, they finish the season against the Chargers, another team that is in that division. Chargers right now 8 and 5, looking like they're going to make playoffs, but we've seen a lot of games where the Chargers just come out flat. And, the Raiders right now, they're sitting in 11th place in the AFC, but they're still extremely in the picture. 1 win against Cleveland, and they fly up in these standings. There's a lot to be hopeful for if you're a team in the AFC that isn't a fan of the Jets, Texans, or Jaguars. And there's a case to be made for all of these teams that you could really see them kind of finding a way to get into this playoff picture. Now, for the Texans, Jets, and Jaguars, obviously, you're kind of hoping that the Lions get hot to end the season and you can get into that number 1 pick territory. This is a weird year, though, because I feel like you can't lose if you're looking for an edge rusher in this class. If you are picking 1 or 2, you can get one of Kayvon Thibodeau or Aiden Hutchinson, and you're probably going to be happy. Personally, I lean Thibodeau. I think he is an absolute stud. I think he is the guy in this class. But, if you're more of a power defense, or a scheme that's kind of built on size on the defensive line, then maybe you lean Hutchinson. There's going to be teams that say, we're far and away leaning Hutchinson over Thibodeau. And there's going to be teams that are saying we are far and away leaning Thibodeau over Hutchinson. So plenty of just intriguing prospects in this class. But for these teams that are kind of, out of the picture, there's still reason to kind of be hopeful, even if it's not the number 1 pick that you're locking up, because there's plenty of great defensive players in this class, and all 4 of these teams could use some defensive help, that's for sure. Now, from this past weekend, why else would you be tuning in if not for Rockman's Rookies of the Week? And that's what we're bringing you right here on Destination Draft Day. Talking about Davis Mills, 33 for 49, 331 yards, and a touchdown against Seattle. Mills is making his case. If you are the Houston Texans, you're trying to find out what the rebuild is going to look like for you. You're obviously probably going to trade Deshaun Watson this offseason when you can get the best amount of value for him. I believe there's supposed to be a result on this case coming up soon, and then the NFL will make their decision from there. And really that's going to kind of help the Texans kind of make decisions, make it clear on how they assess this value, what they can truly get for a guy like Watson. And, that opens up the door for really kind of launching the Texans into their true rebuild. We'll find out what picks they're really going to have. We'll find out how much capital they can gain. And we'll kind of get to see how much they can move around with this stuff. If they give Davis Mills another year and they are bad, they can, in a lot of people's minds, that's fine because you can get Bryce Young next year. Now, is Bryce Young 100% guaranteed as a prospect? Absolutely not. I think, we saw it this year with Rattler. These top QB prospects can have their down years and then kind of shake everything up. But I do think that next year's class is going to be a lot better than this year's class in terms of top-end talent. there's just not that much to be thrilled about for this class. And I don't mean that with disrespect. I think Willis, Corral, Howell, there's a lot of exciting players that could become something very easily. But right now, the safety net of QB talent in this class is kind of just a loose blanket that's not really going to hold anything up. All these QBs have tremendous bust potential, and investing a first round pick is scary. So for a team like the Texans, where you have a roster that could easily justify picking up pieces that aren't a quarterback right now, then you might want to wait a year. You give your young QB Davis Mills that you invested an early pick in another season to kind of help grow his game, see what he can become, see if you can pass on drafting a QB next year. You get to add tremendous pieces to your defense, probably like an Aiden Hutchinson, probably, with whatever next pick you get, you could add a corner or a wide receiver and help out this overall roster foundation. You can invest in the offensive line. There is plenty of just overall options for the Texans to pursue in terms of how they rebuild this roster. And I think sticking with Davis Mills for another year, probably bringing in a veteran quarterback that is looking for a chance to start somewhere, is a feasible option in order for the Texans to kind of properly build this roster, build this foundation, so the next quarterback can truly have a better chance at succeeding. Because yes, Deshaun Watson worked out, but man, they played it risky because that guy was getting cracked ribs every week, it felt like. I remember there was one game where he couldn't take the team flight to the game because of the air pressure, because of how injured his ribs were. So he had to ride a bus like 14 hours to the game. Like, you gotta protect your QB. And if the Texans are smart about this, they give Mills another year. They bring in someone who's an average starter, maybe like Casey Keenum, and then you kind of just go from there and let the season play out, and then you look for your QB of the future if you aren't happy with what Mills has shown. The next rookie of the week is Javonte Williams, 15 rushes, 73 yards, 1 reception, 10 yards, and 2 total touchdowns on the game. Williams is an absolute stud. The running back duo of Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon is extremely exciting, extremely intriguing, and probably one of the best in the NFL. And it's what has really kind of held the Broncos offense afloat. But Javonte Williams has been stud, and I think next year, whenever he kind of owns that backfield on his own, he's going to be in for a tremendous season. He has a great frame. He's like 5'11", 220. So he's got the power, got the strength, but he has the downhill running speed to kind of really just impress. He kind of reminds me of Doug Martin in terms of his running ability. And then he's offered plenty of receiving upside as well that I think will continue to grow as the season goes on and as his career goes on. And I think next year, if you're a fantasy player and you're back into the first or in an auction and you're looking for someone that's not going to completely deplete your budget, but you still want to star, look for Javonte Williams. And I know that probably off-season hype makes him fly up boards and makes him a mid-first or late-first type guy, but I think he's absolutely worth it and is going to be an absolute stud. The next rookie of the week, Najee Harris, 20 rushes, 94 yards, 3 receptions for 10 yards, and 2 total touchdowns as well. The Steelers are in hot water right now. The offense, just isn't getting going. Right now, sitting at 6-1. They need to find some wins. They've lost 3 of their last 4. They tied with the Lions in that 5-game streak, so really only won 1 game in their past 5 games. And the season doesn't get easy. They play Titans, Chiefs, Browns, Ravens. None of those games, I would say, you favor the Steelers in. Now, does that mean the Steelers will lose all of them? Probably not. I think the team is too talented to lose all of those games. But I would say that they're probably the underdog in all 4 of them. And that's going to make things tough. If you're competing in a division that you're already in 3rd place in, I believe, you might be in 4th place. They're in 4th place right now in the division. And you have to win probably 3 of these last 4 games in order to really kind of crack back into the playoffs. I think the Steelers are in trouble, but Najee Harris is a bright spot for this offense, and I think he's someone that they need to depend on. Big Ben is the legend of this team. I understand. He's the face of the franchise, and this is last year. But you can't mesh that into your game plan. You have to play the game to your strengths. Quick passes, running the ball with Najee Harris, getting him opportunities in space, and really kind of relying on him to carry the load so that Big Ben can have his opportunity to leave after a playoff appearance or, after a winning season. Right now, it's tough because the Steelers' offensive line has issues. The passing game has been fairly limited, and Najee Harris has still kind of answered the call. But can he continue to do that with an increased role? Can he get more touches and really kind of put this team, or at least the offense, on his back in order to get the Steelers in the playoffs? Probably not, but still an extremely exciting player and a great week for him. Good luck to any Steelers fans out there. Najee Harris, though, doesn't need luck. He's just going to be an absolute beast and probably continue to find his way on this list. The next rookie of the week, Jamar Chase, 5 receptions, 77 yards, 2 touchdowns for the Bengals star wide receiver. A rookie, but still one of the most impressive wide receivers in the league. Contested catch ability, deep ball ability. He just makes things happen, and he just does it nonstop. And that is why when it comes to Rockman's Rookies of the Week, he's a regular on this list. Cincinnati Bengals, another team that probably need to get going a little bit as the season comes to an end. I think they win next week against the Broncos, and that could put them at 8-6. But they need to win one of these games against the Ravens or Browns in order to kind of establish themselves in that playoff picture. I think they lose the Chiefs game. So, I'm kind of looking at them as a team that probably finishes 9-8. But with that record, they can beat one of Ravens or Browns and really position themselves. Now, if they can win 3 of those last 4 games, then they could finish 10-7. And, if they want to win those games, they're going to have to rely on Jamar Chase to find ways to get open. He's an absolute beast. Ability to push the ball downfield. We saw it against the 49ers. He had that huge game-tying touchdown. Unfortunately, the Bengals still ended up losing in that game. But Jamar Chase, absolute stud performance, continues to be a star as a rookie and really just going to be a star for a long time in Cincinnati. Honorable mention to Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Lions, who had a very good week, and Rashad Bateman of the Baltimore Ravens, who also put up a very good performance in their games as well. And the last guy, look, I could stop watching the Cowboys for the rest of the season and make this list without even looking at the box score. And I would almost be certain Micah Parsons would have a great case for making every single list from here on out. He is now, no doubt, the rookie of the year. If you're just giving it to everyone is in the race, it's Mike Parsons. He is the defensive rookie of the year, almost lock solid. If you believe anyone else could be in that defensive rookie of the year competition, then you're probably just a biased fan trying to hype up your own defensive rookie. If you are looking at the defensive player of the year competition, I think he is very much in the argument with Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. So Michael Parsons is a stud. He's an absolute superstar, and he is everything you want in a rookie whenever you're talking about getting a top 5 pick, top 10 pick. And I know this guy went 11th, so, maybe just don't even get a top 10 pick. But Mike Parsons, absolute superstar, 3 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 2 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, played phenomenally against the Washington football team in a huge game for the Cowboys for a division victory. Michael Parsons, play him at edge, play him at linebacker. He's going to be a superstar for you, and he just continues to do it week in, week out for the Cowboys. Locked in defensive rookie of the year, potential to be a defensive player of the year, first one since Lawrence Taylor to win both defensive rookie and defensive player of the year if he were to do it. And, probably locked in to have a superstar career, assuming that he stays healthy and really continues to just be a menace on the field. That's all we really got for you here on Destination Draft Day. Usually with Nick, a little bit more conversation and stuff makes it a little bit easier to extend the show. That's all we got for you here right now. As the season goes on, we're closing in on the gap from the NFL college football season to the heart of the draft season, and that's what we're super excited for here at Destination Draft Day. If you guys have any questions, whether it's right now or whether it's just in the future, feel free to reach out to me, and we will be sure to talk about it. We are super excited for everything coming up. We are hoping to have a lot of content for you guys. Until then, though, hope you guys have a great weekend. Probably not going to see you for a bit, actually, if I were to guess. Maybe we do a show on the 20th, but if not, then we'll see you guys probably on the 3rd of January. So this could be the last show of 2021. And if it is, it's been a wonderful year. But if not, we'll see you soon. That's all for Destination Draft Day for now. NFL Draft, college football, or NFL talk. We got you covered here. Your one and only place to get it all. Destination Draft Day with ChrisLandryFootball.com. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to ChrisLandryFootball.com for the platform. And we'll see you. Take care.